Hi, I'm Jim McCardle, and we're talking today to the Goshen Fire Company about volunteers. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today Phil Salas on my left. Hi, Phil.
Good morning.
And Bob Sullivan on my right. Hi, Bob.
Hi, good morning.
And they're going to tell us about the varied roles that Hershey's Mill people can play, the volunteer roles they can play. Now, the core of the Goshen Fire Company is a core of volunteers augmented by some professional firefighters. So the volunteers themselves are the fire company, and what you may not have known is that there are non-combat volunteers who perform necessary support functions for the Goshen Fire Company. So many of us have used the Goshen Fire Company ambulance for emergency trips, and that's part of the core job that they do for us. So today we're going to be talking about all of the capabilities of the Goshen Fire Company. Phil, I'm going to start with you, and what role can you play, and what roles have you played, and how many volunteers perform those kind of functions?
Sure. My primary task is as a fire police officer, and fire police officers do three main jobs. We control traffic at auto accidents, make sure everybody stays safe on the scene. We do crowd control at fire scenes, and we handle security at fire scenes, make sure basically that the firefighters, the first responders are safe. But we also do other jobs. I'm one of the treasurers of the fire company. I'm on the board of directors. So we all have different roles that we fulfill in addition to our main role.
Bob, tell me about some of the roles you've played.
Also a fire police officer. I actually got started about 10 years ago as a photographer for the company. Would go to each and every scene, and we used to use the pictures for training for the fire company. I'm also a member of what is known as the Relief Association, which handles some of the monies that come in and could be spent on training for any training facility, any training needs that we have with the company.
So, moving on from what you've done, tell us about, and when we start with you, Phil, some of the capable roles that people could fill from the Hershey's Mill family, in some of the roles they could fill, and what kind of technical background they would have to have for those roles.
So there are lots of roles at the fire company. First and foremost, we have to operate the fire company like a business. So like any business, we have financial functions, and we have people that handle IT and social media and public relations and fundraising. So we're looking for volunteers in all of those areas. We're looking for photographers and folks that specialize in either finance or grant writing, and any of the kinds of functions that you'd have in any business.
So, Bob, many of us have partaken of some of the more visible functions that the fire company does, like the breakfasts and the flower sales. How do you use volunteers for those various roles?
Well, they're all volunteers type activities. You should be very well aware of the fair that we have every year, which is a nice fundraiser for us. We have people that, if you can name it in a business, any type of a business, we have those people and need those people as volunteers. The majority of the company is with volunteer people. As I said, if you can name it in a business, anything that happens in a business, we need those type of people with the fire company.
So one of the other things that we notice from apart, if you will, is that they seem to have additional social functions that support the fire company. Tell me a little about some of them.
Well,
like the breakfast, like
yeah.
the,
There are social functions that are also important fundraisers for us. We have a breakfast fourth Sunday of every month, just about every month. As Bob mentioned, our fair is a major fundraiser for us. The flower shows are a major fundraiser for us. So they tend to be some of the ways that we not only come together as a group socially, but also are important fundraisers.
And how are they staffed?
They're staffed all by volunteers.
Okay.
So, you know, folks that run booths at the fair, folks that run the bingo, the games. We're always looking for volunteers for the fair. So folks that volunteer for the fire company don't necessarily have to, you know, it's not a time commitment where you have to be there when the siren sounds, or, you know, 3 hours a week or 3 hours a day. We're willing to be flexible, and we'll take whatever kind of hours that volunteers will give us, even if it's just coming up to help with the fair, the breakfasts, the flower sale. We can be very flexible on time for volunteers.
So Bob, how does one volunteer? Tell me what the methodology is for someone from Hershey's Mill to volunteer. Where do they go? What do they say, and who do they say it to?
It's very easy to volunteer with us. We have drill nights every Monday night. You could stop by our Park Avenue station and just walk in and say, hello, I'm interested in volunteering, what can I do? The other thing is you can go online to helpfightfire.com, and you can find everything about our company and what is needed. Interesting point is that, you know, you see this gray hair. Everybody looks at me and thinks, I've been a volunteer with the fire company for 30 some odd years. I didn't volunteer till I was age 66. I'm now 77. So for the last 10 or 11 years, I've acted, as I mentioned before, as a photographer, and mostly as a fire police officer. And the age doesn't make any difference. If you're 18 or over, you can come volunteer with us, and we can use your services.
Now, I think a lot of people do get the mistaken idea that everybody that volunteers for the fire company had to at one time handle a hose, and they think that, you know, if you're not strong enough to handle a hose, if you could underline, Phil, some of these functions that are not hose handling, that both ladies and men could
Sure.
volunteer for.
Sure. Well, in the group in the fire police group, of which Bob and I are active crew members, we have a wide variety of ages. We have men and women, young folks, older folks like us, and you know, it's not as strenuous. We're not wearing air packs. We're not wearing 100 pounds of gear. They're less strenuous positions. But then, you know, in addition to that, are all of the various business-related kind of back office functions where we need people that have skills, you know, like we've been talking about in bookkeeping or fundraising or finance or you know, any of the kind of the back office support, backroom support functions.
Bob?
Jim, something I should mention too is that if you do come to volunteer with us, talk to us about where you'll fit into the organization. We'll supply all the training, all the equipment, anything that you need to function on the road. We're right now in a very big cold spell. We have all the equipment to make sure that we can, if we have to get out on the road, we can do it. All I have to worry about is the ability of getting to the scene and being able to put some cones out on the road and direct traffic. All of that stuff is provided for me. We make sure that everybody is safe and has all the equipment that they need.
Now, as you look at the background, we have a picture of the big fire equipment that people love to see at parades. Hopefully they don't need to be used for your house. But obviously this is a big business to be run, and a lot of people, you know, can't imagine where all that comes from. What are the various kinds of functions that are paid for, that pay for all this equipment? How does that happen?
Well, the fire engine that you see behind us is close to $1.2 million. So the firefighting equipment is very expensive. And our funding comes from a variety of sources. A portion of our funding comes from the townships that we cover, that support us. Some of the revenue comes, a portion of our revenue comes from the state in the form of what we call a relief association, that money goes to helping the volunteers, paying for pensions for full-time firefighters. But the majority of our operating revenue comes from donations, from our annual letter drive that everybody so kindly supports for the fire company, for the ambulance, and the firefighting equipment. Our fundraisers, as I mentioned before, our fair is a major fundraiser for the company. Our flower sales that I know all the folks in Hershey's Mill are great about supporting, and our breakfasts, and various fundraising activities through the year.
So one thing that both of these gentlemen have pointed out is that there's an awful lot of volunteer functions that are needed, and people of all ages and both sexes are required, and we need you guys to do something with your lives as you retire here to Hershey's Mill. And one of the very helpful things that you can do is to volunteer to the fire company. Not everybody can be an actor, so certain people have to perform other functions and do something with their life. So come on out and volunteer to the Goshen Fire Company. It's recommended that the place to start would be down at Park Avenue. Just wander in and
Monday night,
and say, gee, I would like to help. How can I help? And they will show you the panoply of various functions that they really need help on. And so you will be welcomed, and they will find a function that will best suit your background and your desires. So first of all, volunteer. They'll find a role for you. And it's a big function of the fire company. Volunteers run the show, and we need your help. So thank you for listening, and we hope that you will respond to both Phil and to Bob, and come and volunteer to your fire company, the Goshen Fire Company. They need your help. Thanks for listening.
thank you.
Thanks for having us.